So let's look back at the start with Isis on the Middlesex side. That's nearer camera. Goldie on the far side. Goldie are Cambridge, Isis are Oxford. And slight discrepancy of where the stream was right at the start here, Jonny Searle.
Well, that's right. Yeah, Oxford seemed to move off further to Middlesex right off the start, and move down maybe half a length quite quickly.
So, certainly that gave Goldie the initiative. They were a bit slower off the start, but they were able to seize the best of the stream, and their crews went off more or less level after the first 20 or so strokes.
Goldie looking for a 9th successive victory. They lead in the competition 20-11, and they are stroked by their president, David Cassidy, who failed to win a place in the blue boat this year.
It is it's one of the things that Oxford have been aware of, that we've obviously lost the last 8, I think. It is Isis Goldie races, so yeah, there is a focus this year on really trying to get a good Isis crew out. Chris Nielsen, a New Zealand guy, has been coaching them.
Certainly Goldie were able to take an initial lead after the first minute. This is a highly rated Goldie crew. They've shown their ability to race close to the blue boat, so this is significant as a point of measurement.
Well, if Neil O'Donnell wasn't too sure at the start, the American cox of Isis, he's certainly come back well, as we're looking across here from the Surrey side and from above.
That's right. I mean, there's maybe a third of a length between the crews there, and although Goldie looked to be a little more relaxed, a little more efficient, Oxford are certainly digging in and hanging in there at the moment.
And the advantage with Isis in terms of the first bend as they come down the end of the Fulham Reach.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing, if you've got the Middlesex station, the inside of that bend is to hold on early on in the race, so that there's a chance to lean on the crew on the outside of the bend. Obviously, if the crew in front is already 2 lengths ahead, there's not much the Isis cox can do about the bend.
Well, certainly some aggressive coxing by the Isis cox. James Berens, the umpire there from Cambridge, their president in '93, he warned Isis on that occasion.
I mean, obviously, I'm sure he's right with his warning there, but Oxford were coming out worse out of that. The 2-man there in Oxford, I think he missed about 3 strokes there, so it probably wasn't the best steering.
That was certainly a foul on the basis of disqualification.
And let's move a little further on in the race, and the competition continued. And Isis, who are having now back at the start with Isis row, trying to get around the outside, really squeezing Suzie Ellis in the Goldie boat.
Absolutely, and the clashes have still continuing on now. They've been locked in combat ever since the Black Boy, and Goldie just cannot get clear of Isis. It's a very, very spirited row by this Isis. I think Goldie may have been a touch complacent about their opposition here.
Well, that's the sort of race it's been, and that's the sort of race it continues to be as they now come down Chiswick Reach into Corney Reach with Barnes Bridge in the distance. They are absolutely side by side, and as you can see from the helicopter pictures, the advantage of the bend will come in Isis's favour.
Indeed. Now, this is the situation which every Middlesex crew hopes to find themselves in if they have to row around the outside of the bend. And now they've got a big advantage. This last Barnes Bridge bend is the most steep bend. It'll give 3/4 of a length advantage to Isis, and they now definitely have taken the lead. They have about a canvas over this Goldie crew. Now, if Goldie can hold on here, they will be a very, very brave crew.
This is an enormous bend. This last bend is probably worth maybe half, 3/4 of a length over a period of only, 3 or 4 minutes. I don't want to tempt fate, but I think the chance of Isis winning here are fairly high.
Well, you can see how much it turns as they go under Barnes Bridge, which is roughly 3 minutes from the end of the race. Still quite a fair bit to go. Just passing Bandstand now.
Yes, they're still to come to the point of the bridge. Steering 2 crews through this bridge is very tricky, and so there could be more trouble as they come through this bridge. But Goldie are looking a bit tired. It's normally a very racy sort of crew. Those blades aren't as well covered as they need to be. I think they gave their all round that Surrey bend, a little bit like Oxford last year, and they're going to really suffer now.
I think the important thing here will be how the Isis cox steers this bend. What he wants to do is hold Cambridge out, or hold Goldie out as long as he can, and then take the bends sharply. That pushes Goldie further across the river. But really, with this big advantage, everything's in favour of Oxford now, or Isis.
Well, this is a really good performance. They haven't won since 1989, the Isis crew. They weren't considered to really be in with much of a chance of ending that sequence, but certainly they have rowed very well after uncertain beginnings. The quality of determination has been very high, and as you can see, they've got clear water as they go under Barnes Bridge. It's really Isis's for the losing.
Yeah, I think that's dead right now. They're clear. They can move over if they want to and put puddles down and wash the Cambridge crew off, the Goldie crew. That'll make it harder for them. They have to row more rough water.
Certainly Goldie had a very soggy patch as they went between the bandstand and the bridge. The blades just were not slipping into the water anything like quick or hard enough. And Isis have really got it the whole way, their own way now. I think they've got at least half a length of clear water.
And there's a worried expression on the face of Chris Baillieu, because the way that the crews have raced in this race in terms of their stations is exactly what we're going to have in the Blue Boat. And if the Oxford Blue Boat can emulate their Isis crew, then maybe they can end a sequence too. There's no doubt that the junior race, which has been well contested by Cambridge for such a long time, in enormous distances, the last five they've won by no less than 53.5 lengths. So this is payback time, I think, Jonny.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I haven't been that closely involved in the camp, but obviously these guys were really confident that they could be the ones to make that change. But to come from, I think it was about 13 or 14 lengths the Isis crews have lost by last year, to come to win is brilliant.
A few names here: Rick Evelind in the bow, Paul Simmons, Stuart Greave, Ed Foster, Oliver Jones, Toby Ayres, who's a distant cousin, the man there with the beard, of Ethan Ayres, who was the president of Cambridge last year, Alex Cooper from Eton and Lincoln, and Simon Cottle from King's School Chester and Oriel is the stroke, and the cox Neil O'Donnell from the United States, giving a few messages here to the man that kept him out of the Blue Boat, Alex Greene, for the big race to come.
Certainly it looks ominous, not just for Goldie, who I think perhaps may have been a little overconfident of this race, but we know that the Goldie is not that far short in speed of the Cambridge Blue Boat, so one has to wonder what the messages are.
Let's hope the message is that Oxford improved a bit. Well, sorry, let's not all hope that, I'm sure.
Well, it's a very rhythmic performance by Oxford, who've not been by Isis here, who've not been getting too many plaudits in practice, but come the day is what counts. And this is impressive stuff.
They've certainly got it all their own way. This is something we've been used to seeing from Goldie crews for the last, as we said, 8-9 years, and that run has come to an end. Very significant from the point of view of, I think, future building of Oxford rowing. Cambridge will certainly have to watch their laurels.
And it's pretty quick, 16:55 indication as we come up now to the finishing line. Isis have beaten Goldie, and beaten them by some distance. Just over 17 minutes. The new finishing post, you'll note there. And the junior race has been won by Isis to their obvious delight.
The traditional 3 cheers there.
with a few fairly aggressive expressions.
Yeah, I think you can see from the faces of Goldie, they're clapping the victors now. That they have I think it came as a real shock to them, without doubt.
Is there to be another shock to come, Steve? Isis successful against Goldie.